Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's It's in the Ballot show. We'll be having various Maori Electorate candidates across both the North Island and the South Island on tonight's show. Okay. But with every election, there's one thing stepping in their way, and that's your vote. And good evening and welcome to tonight's It's in the Ballot show here, and I'm coming live from Wellington, but all our candidates are coming from every different part of the country. So how is everyone this evening? You can speak.
Oh, we can.
Primo.
Okay, so who would like to go up first for the opening statements? So was it Aotearoa? We're not having sound coming through for you at the moment. Okay. Okay. Shall we? While you allow the sound to work on the phone, let's get Charles to go for his opening statements. How does that sound?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly fine.
Ka pai. Kia ora tātou e te iwi, e mātakitaki ana, ko Charles Tiki Huni ahau. I am the candidate for the Waiariki Electorate, candidate for Vision NZ, Vision New Zealand, and I am proud to stand for my people, for this rohe that I've grown up in, that I've lived in for all my life, and worked on the ground tirelessly over the past 20 years, teaching Kurukapapa Māori, but also working with homeless in the housing, in the emergency housing spaces, and just really passionate about this rohe te Waiariki and our people, and passionate for our nation.
Okay, now shall we head over to Paris now?
Kia ora whānau, Paris Winiata. I've been married for 15 years. I have 3 amazing children, and I currently work as a career fireman for Fire and Emergency New Zealand. The reason why I'm seeking a seat in the Te Tai Hauaru Electorate is because I'm a solution-based man, and I'm not one to moan about certain things. I'm always one to put my hand up and to try and solve the problem myself. So being a results-based man, obviously with the crisis, a lot of the crisis that we're seeing today, I believe that I have answers to fix it, and I've aligned myself with a party, Vision New Zealand, who has key policies who can enact meaningful change for our whānau. So that's why I'm standing, and that's why I'm looking for your vote. Paris Winiata, Te Tai Hauaru, and Freedoms New Zealand is your party vote. Kia ora.
Thank you for that. Was it Taikuta? Now, I've said that correctly?
Yeah, Takuta. He's got to imagine there's an R in it.
Okay. Oh, yes.
All good,
yes,
bro. All good. I got you. Hey, first up, hey, skate te mihi a hau ki ngā ki ngā kaitono o tēnā rōpu, tātou e hika mā, tātou ngā māngai, o tātou hapori, o tātou whānau, tai atu ki o tātou marae ki runga ki o tātou hapu me ngā kārangatanga a iwi. O ti rato tātou iwi Māori, e pōkai kaha nei roto i tēnei wā, kei te mihi ake ki a koutou, kua tū mai ki te arahi I a tātou. So yeah, I'm Tākuta Ferris. I'm standing for the Māori Party in Te Taitonga. So Te Taitonga is the largest of all of the electorates. Takes in the Hutt Valley in Wellington and all of the South Island. And hey, I'll just keep it real straight to the point. Te Pāti Māori just stands to be an independent Māori voice in Parliament. Independent. You know, unfortunately, all of the other parties, although they have good Māori people in them, they're all led, you know, owned, governed by Pākehā boards, and ultimately leads to Pākehā interests coming first. So, you know, that's us in Te Pāti Māori. We stand for our mokopuna, you know, looking after our mokopuna, looking after our kaumātua. And, you know, in these times where the cost of living in our own country is exorbitantly ridiculous. The same things you buy in Aotearoa cost less in bloody Australia. You know, we need a free, unconstrained, and definitely unapologetic voice speaking for us in Parliament. So kia ora tātou.
Okay, now, fingers crossed. Hanoera, can we try start talking? Okay, that doesn't look like we have any sound coming through. Have you got a set of headphones at all? Okay, I've got to figure out how do we get your audio to come through. If you can hit on the bottom of your screen, should bring up a set of icons on there for a microphone that might be currently have a mute on your end, but that mute is not on our end. Okay, that doesn't sound. Ray thinks it might be a permissions issue. I'll put in my cell phone number and you give me a ring and we'll connect your audio through that way. And apologies on this one for those who are watching at home. Sometimes these sort of things do happen. Fingers crossed, you know, as many of these candidates here, this might be the first time they're actually using the software Restream when it comes to doing broadcasting. So, and yes, it works brilliant for broadcasting, but it is a little bit different to Zoom. And it's unfortunate they don't actually have an app for it, because if they had an app, they could actually solve some of the problems we're having here. So hopefully I've got a phone call coming through very soon, but, or the other one is, there's another way I know how to go. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong candidate I'm trying to ring. So yeah, sorry Paris that your phone wasn't meant to go off just then. It's what happens when you've got two phone numbers sitting next door to each other in the database. It sounds like we have a candidate who has come through. How would you like to do your opening statement through this weird connection way that we have got them? Just want to check with everyone. We can hear Hanarewa over there on the stream. Yep, okay, let's go ahead.
Well, tēnā koutou to all our candidates this evening and to everyone who's watching. Kia ora Sam, great to see you again.
Same to you.
I'm Hireri Wataho. I'm the National Party candidate for Tawiki Makaurau. I'm of Maniapoto, Maniapoto Tūwhare tō Ngāti Raikawa, on my mother's side, Te Whakatū here, Ngāti Kahununu, Ngāti Hini on my dad's side. And I reside in Auckland. My background is in business development, economic development, community development, and the arts, culture and heritage communities. And this is the first time in 2 decades that the National Party have had someone stand in the Māori seat for national. So I'm being very proud to put my name forward. My whānau have a history within the National Party, with a father who was ex-Māori Vice President and 2 uncles as well. And so from my perspective, it's good to be able to have a voice back into a party that has been missing the Māori voice and to be able to put my name forward. So I look forward to answering the questions with my fellow Taitono this evening. Really nice to see your beautiful faces amongst me. I might be the rose between the thorns, I'm not too sure. So kia ora mai koe.
Thank you for that. Okay, now we will go to the questions we think you'll be asking after watching tonight's show. Where's that graphic on? That's the graphic on there. So question number 1. Why is explosive testing being allowed to happen in our Māori, especially during avalanche season? Question number 2, how will central government ensure that there is room for housing growth while ensuring that viable arable land is left free for crops and animals? And number 3, will government legislation be sorted in time to allow hundreds of wind turbines to be built off the coast of the Taranaki before overseas investors lose interest and the renewable project fails? So so those are some of our catchy things we like to hopefully have people sit there and remember with after the election. After the election? Now we'll get to the fun part of the show where we get the candidates here to get with the questions here. Now, Stacey will be the one at home keeping track of all your of the numbers of the box numbers you choose, and we'll be keeping track of your dodge the cards and defer the questions to another candidate throughout the show. Each candidate is allowed to have 2 dodge the question cards and 1 defer to another candidate. And with the I have got the stream deck set up, so when it comes to the numbers of what boxes you pick on there, it will electronically mean. Oh, sorry, Stacey, which one was it was button cards and defer the questions to another candidate. Button cards. Why did I go to dodge? I can't remember, but I'm still thinking 2022. So we'll now there was meant to be now I haven't actually ended up putting this random list order on here, but I will we will get I'm just trying to think how to figure out how to do this. This is what happens when you've got a new type of format for doing things for one show. We'll kick off with Paris. What is your first box number? I didn't hear anything.
Number 3.
Number 3. How is your party going to stop the increasing decline in children's dental health?
I think our family policy that we're bringing to the table is going to be a massive one. With a lot of the crisis that is happening today, we believe at Vision New Zealand that the root cause of it is a breakdown of whānau, and how that is going to help with the dental care is going to be highlighting key areas where whānau have been left out and pushed aside and putting money into their back pocket. So if it does come to privatisation of dental clinics or dental care, then there is going to be a little bit more funding for whānau to get their children to the dental care. We're also looking to implement a $5,000 grant to each child that's born, so they get given that straight away as a wealth creator for them moving forward throughout their life. And there'll also be another little grant we're offering them up until the age of 1 to try and help with things like college, university studies, schooling, and things like dental care.
Dude, that seems to sit there and go a bit beyond age 1 from what you've just described just there. Is that up to age 18?
No, so the $5,000 payment is like a lump sum they get as soon as they're born, and then there'll be a small amount that they'll be given on a weekly basis, not just to help the child, but also their whānau that's raising the child to up until they're 1 year old.
Okay. So, Hanarera, what box number would you like to pick?
2.
So go for box number 2. Come on, go into there. Let's go. Okay. If you had been elected an MP at the time of the protests at Parliament regarding the mandates, would you have gone on the grounds of Parliament to listen to the concerns of the people? I do know that's probably not bestly worded, but I think you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I understand what it means. I mean, look, personally, I think if I was a MP, I probably would go down and meet with them on the steps. I think we saw that by the fact that members of Parliament didn't go down, it caused great concerns for those who were there, not to be heard. I think Hills at Winston was the only one. So, but of course, doing so, we're also going to make sure that we're safe, and the reasons why we're going there are for a good reason, to be able to hear the concerns of those who protest. And I think that was a particular time that we needed to actually just have a listen to our community.
Okay, no problem. Takuta, what box number?
Oh, hey, bro, I'm on a phone, so I can't see the boxes. So you just give me one.
We don't have boxes on there. You just pick a number between 1 and 28, and 2 and 3 are gone.
All right, 17.
17. And I press the button, and it brings up a question. My fiance and I are concerned that we will never be able to afford a property in Electorate. Well, that could be anywhere in the country. What are you going to do to make housing affordable and accessible for first home buyers? And yes, you've got a very big task of a whole island and a bit more.
Yeah, well, if speaking from a candidate for Te Taitonga perspective, our party policy for whānau bill is a $600 million policy targeted at building homes on ancestral land. Now, that might not really resonate with a lot of people, because a lot of people may think, oh, we don't have ancestral land. And so the thing that our policy challenges is how Māori land is used. Okay, and so many iwi, many whānau have a lot of land, but it's all tied up in the Māori land court. And this means that the land is largely inaccessible to them, and it's very difficult to actually build or develop the land. And so this is obviously a problem. Probably half of the issue of the cost of a house problem in New Zealand is the cost of land. And so our policy is directly targeted at freeing up Māori land so that it is able to be utilised by the whānau, be it hapu or iwi based or hapu or iwi level, but the whānaus that are affiliated to that land. So just quickly, if ancestral land or tipuna land was freed up and infrastructure was made available on that land, then really you're only looking at the cost of building a house. And if you go and have a look at A1 or Signature Homes, you can build a good 3-bedroom house for around $200,000 or $250,000 in this country. So that's part of that. That's the piece that we're tackling for Māori developing their land. Māori developing the building of homes in Aotearoa. So if I was to think about greater New Zealand, well, then there's a few things that need to happen. Number one is supply needs to be addressed. You can tackle supply one of two ways. You can either apply an empty homes tax, which we have, which would free up the supply of rental properties. If you free up the supply of rental properties, then the pressure on the availability of housing right across the board comes down. And then that makes it a little bit easier for people who are aiming to buy a house. You know, it would also put in the capital gains tax, which would just stem the flow of all the baby boomers who got all their money invested in real estate in this country. And we would remove foreign ownership of New Zealand houses. So, you know, those are all sort of things that you can apply across the system, but our policy is directed straight at the utilisation of Māori land. And if we can unlock that, then housing becomes a possibility. The generation of economic development on Māori land becomes a possibility, and so do many other things.
Thank you for that. Next up, Charles, what box number?
7. Hey, just a question. Is there a time limit for answers? I thought there was
Meant
a
to be
time
1 minute, and I did message wrap up. Okay, so over the last, so here's the next one here. Over the past few years, New Zealand has suffered from many forms of division. How will your party reconnect people and heal the divide so we are a united country again?
Well, first of all, I think there's just people have been playing too much of the racism card. And unfortunately, I believe even the Māori Party are guilty of that. I believe it takes strong leadership. And we have some strong leadership. We've been working in the community for a very long time now under Hannah Tamaki, and also through Visions, through Freedoms NZ, under Brian Tamaki. Now, we've been a part of this whole freedom movement. And just going back with that thing down on the protest, I was there actually. And one thing about that thing, there was no race. There was no race base. There was no division of race. We were all one people. And that's how it needs to be. We are all one people in this land. Māori, tangata whenua of this land, but also Pākehā. And so the Treaty of Waitangi that was signed in 1840, you know, that was an agreement between the two peoples that signed that agreement. And part of their purpose of their agreement was to bring unity amongst the people. So I think, you know, as a party, it all comes down to good leadership at the end of the day, which I believe we have. Koia taku whakautu.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we've got our list up here of random name orders. Paris, you're up next. What box number?
I'm going with the GOAT, number 23.
23. Okay, does your party believe there should be a policy on the locations of alternative energy sources such as solar farms in urban areas?
No, we don't have a policy specific to that question. But the whole thing with climate change here in Aotearoa, we do think that it's a little bit of a have. We do think it's a bit of an attack on our farmers, and we do think that the change that we have already made is hugely significant. But then also the more change that we want to create is going to be insignificant in comparison to the damage that the rest of the world is causing. So we believe that money that they're looking to spend into climate change could be far better off spent in greater things that we need now as a people. Housing, our health services needs to be addressed. All of these types of things need to be put front and center. Prison numbers, suicide rates, all of those types of things should be where our money goes first and foremost. We've already made drastic changes with climate change, and we're almost living up to our clean green slogan that we portray. Apart from the crisis that we see in today, the things that we just talked about, prison numbers, suicides, and all of those deeper, darker things, which a lot of people turn a blind eye because it doesn't directly affect them. So let's start addressing the majors and leave the minors for another day.
Okay, thank you for that. Next up, Charles, what box number?
What boxes are left? Let's go 23. Is that one?
23. I think we just done 23.
Oh, shit. I'm not listening. 1.
Go for 1. Okay, how are you going to address the cost of living crisis?
Well, in our policy, there are several ways. One was we were going to reduce GST to 10%. We believe that taking away GST altogether on in certain things is not the right way to go. But if we reduce GST 10% overall, you're going to be targeting more than just the food. You'll be targeting petrol prices, services to whatever you need as well. Also, on the first $25,000 earned, we believe that there's should be zero tax on that money that's earned. So it'll put money back into people's pockets. But also, what really needs to be addressed is the duopoly on supermarkets. Now, more regulation needs to be put in place there because we believe that the cost of food is ridiculous. And when you've got two major corporations that own 80% share of the market, control all wholesaling and distribution, and then on top of that, a land banking to prevent more competitive pricing, then there's a problem there. And so we believe that there needs to be more regulation placed on those two major corporations.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you for sticking within the time. Okay, next up, Hanadera. What box number? We heard nothing just then. Did you mute yourself? And probably typing up the message as we speak. It looks like you might have a mute key turned on. It's all right. Going to the backup method.
Well, it might be her headphones.
Okay. Has been suggested that your headphones might not be sending the microphone message to the computer. Well, let's try.
Headphones are out.
And unplug from the computer.
And I'll turn the sound up. How about that?
And still nothing's coming through on your audio.
Okay.
Oh, yep, there we are.
Is that an echo?
That was because we're both on the phone and on the stream.
Okay. All right. So box number 13.
Okay, box number 13. Let's bring it up on there. Okay, box number 13 is property investors often outbid first home buyers at house auctions. How would you encourage these investors to switch to more productive investments?
Oh, gosh, that's a bit of a tough one. Well, look, investment is a very personal thing to many people. Housing, buying a first home is the biggest investment that our whānau would say to us or our family expect us to purchase. But, when you talk about other productive investments, then, shares is an opportunity for families to work together with. But I go investing in land, investing in businesses. That's another way. Business is really important. I think for whānau, we're very, very strong in our business, looking to set up businesses because they can create sustainability, create income, lifestyle, and, at the end of the day, be able to enable us to, have something that can actually bring all our family into. So, it's kind of property investors often outbid first home buyers at house auctions. How would you encourage these investors to switch to more productive investments? I think that's a really personal question and not possibly a policy question, for national government. But what you've got to do is make sure we've got more money in our pockets to be able to save. KiwiSaver is a great way to be able to save for that first home for our people if they're able to do that. You've got to have better incomes to be able to achieve that at the end of the day. So I think it's, whānau order is a really good policy framework for our whānau to work together around their development plans to determine what is important to them, important to our whānau, to our mums, our dads, our kids, to look at what types of investments. But, sometimes, still that dream and that goal is to have that first property.
Okay. So, Takuta. God, why do I want to keep saying it the wrong way? Okay.
I'm not too sure, bro.
Yeah, that's not your fault. That's the
PAR, bro.
PAR.
PAR.
Answer your question.
All good. Hey, I'll have box number 11.
Box number 11. Okay, what is your party's policy to get families out of emergency accommodation and into long-term stable housing?
Okay. So our policy is whānau built. Our policy is an empty house tax. So there are more than 100,000 empty homes in this country. Like, this is the ridiculousness of the whole housing crisis, is that if the 100,000 homes in this country that are just owned by wealthy people, wealthy families, the whānaus that can afford a batch, or the property speculators who have 1, 2, 3 homes or more, often these homes are just money pits. So, i.e., they just buy it, no one ever lives in it. They might holiday in it once a year. All of these types of homes, right? And you guys will know where they are. We will see them around. So if you put a tax on that house and you incentivize that owner to make that property available for rent, then that would readjust the rental market. So all of these homes, they're not the low value homes, where people just put their money in and keep it as an investment. They're the sort of the middle to higher run homes. So if you free those homes up, then you deal to the availability in the lower levels of the housing market, which frees up houses for all of our whānau who are currently in motels. So that's our number one policy aimed at that, is a ghost house tax.
Okay. Sounds quite intriguing. I wonder how it deals with Airbnbs and book a batch rentals. How does it deal with that?
Yeah, well, if they're empty for 3 months or more, it'll be deemed a ghost house.
Interesting. Goodbye.
Okay. Hanarera, you get to choose the next box number.
Oh, good. In that case, can I go for 21?
21. Does your party believe that we should protect spaces and services exclusively for biological women?
What does that mean?
No trans allowed. I'm not sure that.
What do you mean by biological woman?
Well, I mean, that's what the question. I mean, I'll probably say those who are born as XX on the chromosomes. Is that possibly the best way to describe it?
Okay. I suppose. Are we talking about our LGBTQI community?
That's what a woman is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be, it might be like, was it excluding the likes of Georgina Bayer from using the women's toilets? Might be the best. Might be what they want the answer to come out like.
All right. Okay. Well, as we know, Georgina Bayer was one of our most forward-thinking and progressive politicians in the country, and we are, though I might be a national, I give thanks every day for her and for her whakaaro and what she'd be able to present for our communities within our LGBTQI communities. To ensure that there was there was a level of balance here. But I suppose, I mean, does our party should protect spaces and services exclusive for biological women? I mean, we should always have spaces that are safe places for women. We should always, and that women to be, if that's what they require. I don't think we've got a specific party policy on this one. I would have to have a look on, but a personal opinion is that, if our communities of non-binary are feel uncomfortable and they require a space to be in, then those spaces should be available to them. just like we have in hospitals, whānau spaces for whānau to be, with their families as required. I think that's a tough question to ask without having some background to it, but that would be my response on that. We're all entitled to have a place to feel safe in.
Okay.
Can I butt in on that?
Go
for it.
So I believe that, or our party believes that there definitely should be spaces for safe spaces for all people, regardless of whoever you are, biological woman, transgender, non-binary, whatever you want to be. Definitely safe spaces. But I think what we need to be careful of is the woke culture that's been pushed. And let's be honest, it's an agenda that is being pushed radically and politically. There is no doubt about it, and that needs to be addressed. I mean, people can be whoever they want to be, and all power to them. But when you're forcing certain agendas on people, that there is a belief, that there is a belief, and as an ideology, and I think we need to be careful of that.
Can I just add to that, though? I mean,
Is this a debate or was?
No, it shouldn't be a debate on this. Yeah, but to add to what you say, is that from we've always had practices currently where there's women-only public toilets. There's women-only public toilets is probably the biggest one. But I kind of go, we do have to be careful here. We don't start segregating. That's. And why, and it actually has to be up to the woman to determine whether they want that. So, are we talking here about, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about women-owned passenger cars? Are we talking about on public transport or women's parking spaces? What are we talking about here? We're an integrated society, men and women are working side by side, but I go, in public spaces, there needs to be safe spaces for all people. So I do agree with you on that one, Charlie.
Oh, here's an example. If you're going to button on my button or button on yours, here's an example. Right. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and if she was to go to the public pools, and a man was a biological trans woman was allowed to be in that space with her, I would not be comfortable as a father to allow my 15-year-old daughter in that space. And that's what I'm talking about, safe spaces. Now, so like I said, all power to them. They, whoever they want to be, that's all good. You can be whoever you want to be, but we should be creating their own spaces for them. And I think we have a problem when we have a prime minister who can't define what a woman is. And I'll leave it at that.
Popeye.
Okay, well, Charles, now it's your question. What box number?
What boxes do we have left? I'm getting confused. Let me think.
The annoying thing is on my screen.
Oh, okay. Is 5 there? Is 5 one?
Yes, I think 5 hasn't been taken.
Yep, let's go 5.
Gone there. Oh, I like this one. New South Wales has an independent commissioner to investigate corruption. Do you think New Zealand should investigate in creating a similar position?
Well, first of all, I didn't even know New South Wales had that. But yes, actually, I do agree with that because I believe there is corruption in this. I believe that there has been corruption happening. In our policy, we have a Kapapa Māori policy. And under, I think it's whenua within that Kapapa Māori policy, we would request for an independent advisory board with no conflicts of interest to ensure that there is accountability and that there's accountability for all funds that have been targeted to certain areas, that those funds are spent where they're supposed to be spent. For example, it could be the Māori Council. They could come in on it as an independent advisory board to ensure that any funds, government funding that is given through procurement would be utilised as its purpose, so that there's transparency and accountability. So I do, but yeah, we do agree with that.
So bring on the ICAC. I think the late Penny Bright will be very happy to hear on that. Next up, Takuta. I got it right. What box number?
8, bro. 8 things.
Okay. So, will your party support a full inquiry into the death and vaccination injuries that has resulted from the Pfizer vaccine program?
Yeah, I think any sort of government sanctioned vaccine program that has adverse outcomes for whānau definitely needs to be investigated. All of the and that should be a standard across the board. And because there are many other forms of vaccination that our whānau have to take up, and many of them suffer adverse effects from taking them. And you take them, or you have your kids take them, in the hope that future ailments or adverse effects by contracting a infectious disease won't harm them. But yep, I suppose the simple answer to that is yes, and would apply that across everything. I mean, we all know that our people are indiscriminately not so much targeted, but we're always on the short end of poor outcomes when things like this come along. So definitely looking after our whānau in that regard is a key priority.
Okay, perfect. Okay, next up, Paris. What box number?
I'm going to go with another GOAT, Dan Carter, number 10.
I like the rugby references. Okay, long-term change requires strong and binding cross-party collaboration and agreement. What is one of the areas that your party can commit to attempting genuine, lasting and binding cross-party work for the long-term benefit of New Zealand?
Yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding. We're already trying to bring a collaboration together of all the minor parties across the table at the moment by creating a umbrella party of Freedoms New Zealand. We've always thought that we're better together and not segregate or try and push our own ideologies, but let's actually get to the crux of what are the major issues that we as Kiwis face in New Zealand, and let's deal to those issues. Because if we can knock off a lot of those major issues that we are currently facing and put all of our putia, time, effort, knowledge into those areas, then we're going to be far better off as a country. So again, for example, what we've all been harping on about, the housing crisis, the state of our mental health system, and our health system is horrible and terrible. So we're willing to work with parties, but we think that we need to be getting down to the nitty-gritty and everybody coming together to focus on the major issues at hand.
Okay, now it's time to refresh the list and see what the next order is. Charles, you're up first. What box number?
Is 18 there?
I believe 18 is. I haven't heard that number being called out yet. Okay. Do you believe that 16-year-olds have the maturity to vote?
First of all, I'm going to say no. I don't believe they do. But in saying that, that's a hard question to say, because there are I'd say there are 16-year-olds that are more mature than some 60-year-olds. So it depends, right? But I'd say majority at 16, most of them would be just worrying about what they're doing on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. In terms, there probably are 16-year-olds who are politically minded and thinking about those issues, but I don't believe that they're quite ready. I mean, 18. I think 18 is good. 18 is a good age, but 16 is a bit too young.
So certainly not putting it back up to 21 as it was when voting was first introduced in the 1860s. And I mean, trust me, those rules were very, very bad. Okay, Hanarera, what box number?
Box number, we go for 6.
6. What is a quality that you admire in one of your fellow candidates? Now, you can answer this about your electorate, or you can answer it about the people who are on this stream, excluding me because I'm not a candidate.
Well, look, the thing that I admire about most funny, I was on the last night. We had the Tamaki Makoto debate on whakaata Māori last night, and it was these was one of the questions that was asked of me. But what I would admire about all of us that are here in this session tonight is the fact that we've all put our hand up to stand for our respective parties and present our philosophy and our point of view for our parties. So I would have to say that's something that I admire, that is Māori, that we've chosen our political parties for a reason and we believe in our kaupapa. So I just want to say to all of you, kia ora and congratulations. There we go.
Okay. Paris.
Greatest running back of all time, Seahawks, Marshawn Lynch, number 24.
Number 24. Okay. What would your party do about regulating the introduction of artificial intelligence?
Is that in regards to security?
It might be to sit there and stop Terminator.
Not in regards to chatbot GPT, is it?
Who knows? I mean, that's just what the question's about, and it's what do you believe that what parameters should be set regarding and would that be something your party would be willing to undertake in the next 3 years to set what New Zealand's parameters would be?
Yeah, we do think it's important that there is still a form of privacy that individuals can feel within their own homes, and we do want to make sure that governments aren't overbearing in where they can go and what they can do in regards to breaching privacy for individuals. So we're not open to just going all out willy-nilly facial recognition on everything and all of these types of things. So we want to make sure that governments aren't overbearing and overreaching in regards to individuals' privacy.
Okay. Taikuta, what box number?
6.
6. Have we done 6, Stacey?
Yes, you've done 6.
Okay, no, choose another number.
I know, because
11.
I don't think we've done 11. Okay. Yep, that does it. Oh, no, we have gone.
No, we've done 11.
13.
Well, I think we've done that one as well.
Yeah.
14.
Oh, this is a good one. What is your view on the role of rail projects, including initiatives like Te Huia, the train that connects the Waikato and Auckland, in improving public transport and connectivity in Aotearoa, New Zealand?
It's a huge issue for Aotearoa. It's attached to a whole lot of other issues like housing. How do you intensify housing if all you're going to do is spread them all out? No, you can't. You can't do that. You have to work out a good way to house enough people closely together, not packed in like caged hens, but closely in a reasonable sort of density setting. But then you have to service that with transport. So we back free public transport and the use of rail, not only in freight but passenger rail. So yeah, we're fully supportive of that. It's got to be part of the solution. It's attached to many other things like access to good employment, development of appropriate housing, obviously economy and that with freight. So yeah, no, we back all of those solutions.
Okay. Next round of questions. Charles, you're up next. What box number?
20.
20. Okay. What actions that's what happens when you forget to stop the timer. What actions are your party supporting to assist with climate change?
Well, the climate right now, this is the whole big thing: climate change this, climate change that, and we're on a big push for this whole climate change issue. I believe that there is a globalist agenda here that people are sort of just putting to the side. I mean, why are we hell-bent on a zero carbons emissions by, 2050?
Net zero.
When pardon?
Net zero.
Net zero carbons emissions. When our contribution to the world's carbon is 0.017%, I think. Yeah, 0.01%. Now, that is a very minute percentage. Yet we are hell-bent on this whole issue. Now, I'm no scientist here, but I do believe trees need carbon to produce oxygen, which we need. So definitely with the whole climate issue, we need to take care of our whenua. We need to take care of Papatūānuku, and we need to take care of our resources for the future generations. But I would like to see more reliable data than that's being produced, because I also question the data that's being produced, because who's paying for that data? So that would be my answer to that question.
Okay, next up, Paris. What box number? Oh no, we've got a button. Hanarera.
Well, I thought I'd better answer from a National Party's perspective on this one, because climate change is such a major to us, and I was hoping Takuta might have said something, because I watched you the other night and I thought your responses on climate change were really good. But look, New Zealand, as far as the national government is concerned, was that we will meet New Zealand's climate change targets by supercharging renewable energy and unlocking new technology to reduce agricultural emissions. We signed the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015, and we're committed to meeting the net zero target by 2015. We know that New Zealand must play its role in reducing emissions, but the way National is going to tackle climate change is very different from Labour and the Greens. So, we've got to look at the targets, the key drivers of emissions, agriculture and energy, transport and energy. And the other thing too is that's really important for us is how we embrace new technology around infrastructure for New Zealand, how we double renewable energy generation, and how we strengthen the economy in the process along the ways. So, kia ora.
Okay, Paris, now let's get back to that box number, unless we've got another button coming.
Oh, yeah, I can just add to it. I can add to it, man, because, for Māori, climate change is a two-pronged thing. Okay, so you got number one, global emissions, and what the bro says is right. What New Zealand adds to the global CO2 problem isn't really that huge, really. But we do have to live in the effects of it. And so I'm a fisherman. I'm born and raised on the sea. And anyone who's been watching the weather over the last 5 years knows that summers now include warm air and water from the equator being sucked down to us. And it tends to slam into the east coast. That's what it's done for 5 years in a row. And it's not likely to change, Once things become trends, that's generally the direction that they keep going in. So what that means is that the East Coast becomes a heavily rained on area through the summer. It'll become a monsoon place. And so, without dealing to local destruction, that's going to just be a massive problem. Because if you leave that whole coast as farms, the rain falls and everything just runs as fast as it can into a river. Yeah. So, we have to rebuild the ecosystems that trap and slow water on the surface of the land. If we don't do that, we're in big trouble. So there's those types of things that we're going to have to live with, and we're going to have to work out solutions for them. And the other thing for me is that our coastal waters, number one, they're under a huge amount of pressure because everyone wants to go diving and fishing these days. But number two, ocean temperature rising and ocean acidification are two massive problems that will impact us in our lifetimes. Small instances of massive die-offs and shellfish have already happened, are already happening. And so these are the things that we need to sort out. Otherwise, we become an iwi with no kinners, powers, or crayfish in areas. That's a problem.
Thanks for that. Paris, now, the next rugby reference.
I'm going to go with NFL, Tom Brady, number 12.
Number 12 is all good to go, Stacey? Okay. The future of local government report says a significant fund is needed to support climate change adaptation activities. How is your party going to respond to this?
Yep, so very similar to what Charles has said earlier. I think that we should look first and foremost at the problems that we are looking at now and has been major issues in our country, not just now, but has been for the last 3 or so years. So that needs to be addressed first. And if there is pūtea over, then let's set some aside for the future. Because there's whānau that are suffering now that need help. And it needs to change. We're the highest per capita for suicide, and I go to a lot of them. I've been to too many to name. Cutting people down from trees. It's the public don't see it and the public don't know, but that like there's been 4 in the last couple of weeks. People jumping in front of trains. So do you know what I mean? This is what I deal with on a day-to-day basis that a lot of people don't see, and that's a difference with me. With a lot of career politicians, they're so out of touch with their constituents that they have no idea, and they become so ingrained in what can they benefit out of it, or how can I leave my own legacy, but don't actually enact any meaningful change. So for me, this is a real issue that that's dear to me, that needs to be addressed. So, yep, climate change, all good. Yep, we are going to have to deal with it at some point, but let's focus on what needs to be dealt with now. And let's do it quick.
I want to ask, before we head on, if elected as a politician, would you follow the same steps that Tony Abbott did and remain commitment with the fire service on a volunteer basis?
No, I'll have to relinquish my job as a fireman.
Okay. Was it Takuta? What box number?
But in saying that, I want to make a meaningful change in 3 years and then be out. I don't want to be sitting there forever trying to create change that, you know what I mean? I'm a solution based. If I don't get the job done, I shouldn't be there. Just like half of these other politicians who are still barking on the same thing. Straight up, they shouldn't be there. They've had their chance, and made no change. Bro, get out. Give someone else that's willing to make change for the people a chance.
Go fine.
Totally agree there, and I feel that there are some very great candidates here tonight. And I wish I could vote, but technically that would be double voting if I voted in every single one of the electorates, let alone I would have to sit there and hunt down in my 6 generations which iwi is there that could tie into the family. Okay. Takuta, what box number?
What's left, bro?
Oh, God, I think Stacey's going to be typing up a bunch of numbers soon. There's number 9, 15.
Well, let's go number 9. Number 9.
Number 9, okay. The farming sector is being negatively impacted by overregulation. What will your party do for the farming sector to assist them in to deliver positive environmental outcomes without adding more regulation?
Is that possible? Probably help them to transition out of nitrogen-based fertilizers. You know, nitrogen is probably the most, that and, effluent from cows. It's probably the most harmful thing to our waterways that farmers use. And so the only way to get them off it is to offer solutions. So there are alternatives. So they need to be supported and incentivized to shift into that area. And so one of the other things with our farming industry, and it's right across our primary industries, all of them, Aotearoa has long had a problem in as much as our primary industry economic model is probably the weakest one you could ever imagine. And it's one where the purchaser sets you the price. So you have no means to increase the money you could make other than increase the volume of whatever you're doing. So therein lies the problem, right? If the only way a farmer can make more money is by having more cows, then that's a problem. You know, so considering how New Zealand farmers can increase the value of what they produce, that's something that the government should be doing. They choose not to do it because it's a lot easier just to sell it all in bulk and sell it internationally, you know. And so long as we're selling all our stuff internationally, the few at the top of the capitalist model who own or have access to capital, they will continue to benefit out of that model. So empowering local farmers, and you're like, if local farmers could sell direct to local markets, that'd be better. You know, they wouldn't be tied to the one price from Fonterra type setup that most dairy producers are. So more localism in our market, and you got to help farmers get off nitrogen along with a few other things. Less cows, country needs less cows. We can't have the same amount of cows that we've got now and expect any river to get better. Never going to happen.
It sounds like you need to be heading up to Takanagi to see Chris Jury, because you and him are singing the same song sheet there.
Yeah, I'm just going to butt in on that one as well. So I think, that's awesome what the bro said, and that's another thing that government isn't doing, is they're not having consultation with key people in key professions. They just try and go by a whole bunch of research and then try and dictate to these farmers what they should and shouldn't be doing, with no real consultation or no real expertise of people that have done this for many, many years and seen many, many different climates across their generations that have farmed those lands. So, like, giving portfolios to cabinet ministers that have no idea about that particular portfolio, and they completely relying on advisors. Do you know what I mean? So it's, I don't know, but it's completely back to front. They need to get professionals in there that know what they're doing, that have done it for years. You can tell a tree.
Sure, bro. And just additionally, the perfect example of a higher value economic model is the Māori economy. You know, the Māori economy grows faster than New Zealand's economy, sells its products for higher prices than the New Zealand economy, but it's selling the same thing. You know, so if the government needed a comparison, there's an easy one right there. Why is it that Māori companies can sell the same milk to almost the same markets, but for more money? Why is it that Māori companies can sell beef and honey internationally for more money than New Zealand can sell it? It's because they put the effort into the economic modeling. You know, so it's all doable, eh? It's all doable. We always hear, I can't do it too hard, but there's plenty of examples just lying around.
Hanarera, what box number?
Box number.
Paris has done a nice, lovely
28.
list of what's remaining in the chat.
Okay, let me pull up my chat then. 28.
Okay, so
My
28.
daughter's age.
Tell us one personal quality that you can offer to our country as an MP.
Personal quality.
I think there's a lot.
Yes, it's always hard to talk about oneself, isn't it? It's much easier to talk about somebody else. A personal quality that I bring as if I was a member of Parliament, would be a voice to listen. Well, that's one of my good skills, is to be able to listen, analyse, and determine a pathway forward. For me, it's around about looking at our level of legislation, regulation, and policy, and whether that policy is good for us or not. And I think for me, is that I look at some of much of our policy for Māori, and it needs to be reviewed to support us better with our outcomes. So I think that's one of the skill that I would be able to do, is to be able to look at that information, determine what the best pathway may be forward, and also to work collectively with iwi and hapu and with our Māori whānau to be able to determine what their growth plans look like. So yeah, that's a skill that I think I would bring to the job if I'm successful this year. But yeah, and even if I'm not, is to remain a community leader within the fields that I operate within, as within the creative economy, culture and creative economies, which for me is all about culture policy and putting humanity at the forefront of everything that we do. So kia ora.
Okay, we've tipped into the second hour, so do we want to take a quick break or should we go straight in for hard-hitting questions?
Keep going.
Okay,
What's
so
Keep going.
okay, so
Keep going, Sam.
no problem. Let's get rolling in for hard-hitting questions. Okay, for those who are wondering what hard-hitting questions are the very most frequently commonly asked or vital questions that needs to be asked by the community of the electorate. Now, this is actually technically our first It's in the Ballot show where we've had candidates standing in their own representation for different electorates in one show, and that's because, you know, with elections, you end up having situations like shows not always lining up in place with candidates. There's Tonys have happened during this election season. All sorts can happen, and we end up with this very nice, diverse team, which I would love to all figure out how to vote for, which is a little bit hard. The way I'm trying to think, and I do know one thing: if I was on the Māori roll, I would be under Te Tai Tonga, but unfortunately, I'm not on the general roll. But I'm embraced by all the candidates we have standing here. Now, we are going to kick off with hard-hitting question number one. What is the most pressing issue in your electorate? And you're welcome to answer it either as collectively as the whole country or answer it as what is the most pressing issue in the electorate you're standing in. And we'll kick off with Paris.
The most pressing in Te Tai Hauaru from recollection is housing and crime.
And what would you do to improve or to reduce / eliminate it? What would be, you know, if that's the most pressing issue, what would you do to fix it?
For the crime, we have a law and order policy. So one of the things within the policy that we want to implement is crime safety units. So I'm not sure if people in here know, but we have an organisation called Man Up and Legacy, and a part of the Man Up program we have ropus all around Aotearoa, and we want to implement these crime safety units into hotspot crime areas. So these crime safety units will be trained by frontline police, and they will specifically be dealing in a lot of the matters that frontline police have had to deal to and taken them off bigger issues within police workforce that needs to be dealt with. So they'll be trained by police, and that will alleviate the demand on police with minor matters. So a lot of domestic violence and all of these types of things can be addressed through the crime safety units, which is a lot of the work that we as Man Up already and Legacy are already doing in our communities.
Okay, next up, Charles. How would you like to answer that question?
Okay, so I'm in Waiariki, obviously, and I think the most pressing issue here in the Waiariki electorate is housing. Like I live in Rotorua myself, and one of the biggest issues here is housing, emergency housing. I think one thing that really needs to be done, and I want to take my hat off to the iwi. So recently we had a national Māori housing conference here in Rotorua. And I want to take my hat off to all the different Māori organisations that have been building houses. Just take this example. Ngāti Whakaue tribal lands here in Rotorua have already managed to build over 100 homes in the short time span, more than whatever Kiwi Build was able to achieve in such a short time. And I think on my own whenua back in Te Teko, we're building houses on our papakainga. The problem is the RMA rules. The RMA rules create too much restriction, and we believe that needs to just be removed. If we remove those rules, open up pathways, and then we talk about giving capability. Well, the capability is with our own iwi. We know how to build houses, especially here in Rotorua. And so Ngāti Whakaue tribal lands have already built houses here in Rotorua. Uenuku Kōpaku have been building houses here. Pahipoto back in Te Teko have already built 9 houses on their papakainga. And so I think that's a solution, because the problem is basically it's supply and demand. There are not enough houses, and we need to be building more. So I think that's one of the biggest issues here in Te Waiariki.
Okay, Hanarira, what your response?
Well, kia ora. So last night we had our Tamaki Makaurau Whakaata Māori debate, and we're fortunate of the 500 people. They gave us a sort of a heads up for Tamaki Makaurau, what was important to them. Certainly cost of living was high, poverty and crime. For National, it has been about looking at how we ease the cost of living by giving tax relief. It's about looking at increasing incomes and also too around growing the economy and having better jobs. So for us, it's about reducing the costs that poorer families face, dealing with the cost of living across that deals with inflation and housing costs. It's about central to this is the fact that we're offering the family boost, which is $75 a week for childcare subsidy after housing costs. Childcare is one of our whānau's biggest costs. And we need to get people off benefits as well. So, we are focused on the government's efforts have been around lifting benefit incomes. Our focus will be on supporting people into more jobs. So, that's one way to be able to, look at how we, by giving tax relief, by giving more money into our whānaus who are working really hard to, keep food on the table, pay their mortgages, make sure, but, things are costing more. So, we've got to lower inflation, grow the economy to ease the cost of living and create better paying jobs. And one way to do that is about, let's keep more of what you earn in your pocket. So we've got our sort of, 3 tiers there for whānau and how we can support them. So there we go.
Okay, now just before we disappear, what is National Party's plan to fix with the payment temporary additional support, particularly the deduction rate, which is dollar for dollar, and once you add income tax and potentially student loan repayments, you could be looking at 130 cents for every dollar you earned gone from the first dollar you earn when you're receiving temporary additional support payments. And most of the time temporary additional support payment is given out is when paying what work and income deem as excessive housing costs, which I used to know the figures, but benefit rates have gone up, accommodation supplement has gone up. But I do remember when in 2011, both myself living in Levin and my friend Brian, who was living in Wellington, we received the same amount per week, but our benefit makeups were completely different. And I was loaded up with $22 temporary additional support, whereas he received $22 more in accommodation for simply paying the same accommodation cost per week. In my case, I was disincentivized to work because I lost that $22 the moment I went out the door before I even got to the $80 limit, whereas he had that first $80 he got to keep.
Right. I have an answer for you because I don't know. I wish I knew our social welfare system better than what I do. But what I can say is this: is that there is no, at the moment, National has got is not looking to reduce benefits. Benefits will stay exactly the same as they are once we get into government, and if we are fortunate, then we will look to review. In some cases, benefits may need to go up. In some cases, benefits may need to go down. But if we're talking about what is important, let's keep more of what we earn. with tax relief, then it's about looking at our family, our whānau of up to $100 per fortnight for an average income household, and the family boost childcare tax credit of up to $150 per fortnight. So even if you are a single income earner and have a benefit, you can still get a tax credit up to a certain amount. I mean, one of the things I would say is go and use our tax calculator, have a look and see what it does for you, how much more you will earn per fortnight. In your pay packet when you do your tax at the end of the year, but the focus is being able to give something back into your pocket so that you can actually have more at the end of the day.
Thank you for that. Was it Taikuta? What your response?
So yeah, definitely the cost of living is the number one issue across the Taitonga. It probably takes in housing and renting. And so, actually, I'll just start with housing, housing is the key. Housing is the key. Having a safe, secure home is linked to whānau well-being, and personal well-being, being healthier, living longer. It's linked to better educational outcomes. It's linked to greater opportunity in employment, career advancement, all of those sorts of things. So a home for te iwi Māori is critical. It's critical because if we can't address that, we are not going to get our people out of all of the other areas where we're overrepresented by poor statistics. And so our people, our iwi organisations, our hapu marae organisations, our Māori community organisations, be them urban or rural, whatever, all of them must build more homes, whatever way possible. So we have to build infrastructure. We have to realise the potential of Māori land. We have to build to our own codes. If Te Ao Māori are going to step up and do the work to house our own people, we should be happy to expect to be building those houses to our own codes. We'll own the infrastructure. That's fine. These are the things that we have to do. We have to work out financing them ourselves. There's plenty of money in the world. There's plenty of money in te iwi Māori. There are ways to do this. But if we don't crack housing for our people now, for us, for our generation, for our kids, if we don't do that, our kids will be in the same place. Your mokos will be poor in this country. That's how critical housing is for us. And if we just kick around trying to do one more thing with the government, we'll get nowhere with that. That's got us to the great big fat nowhere we're in now. And there's no way that we're going to sit around and accept that. How many houses New Zealand needs to just stand still? 20,000 a year. 20,000. If this is numbers out of the Housing Institute, right? So it's 20,000 just to keep up with immigration, population growth, and replacement value. So if you can't build 20,000 a year, you're going nowhere already. And last year, this 12 months just gone, we had the highest recorded net immigration figures at 150,000. All equated to the lag from COVID and all of that, but it doesn't matter. There's 150,000 new people in the country. So all of those things have got to be factored in. So Te Ao Māori got to take more determined action. The cost of living, agree with all of the tax attempts. Okay, Te Pāti Māori's got tax policy that puts more money back into the pockets of our whānau, and we claw that money out of all of the places that other parties won't tax. So if you're not willing to go in with the big tax knife and carve out new money, all you're doing is shuffling old money around. So those couple of things, those are important. The settings around our international trade agreements with other countries.
Just to say, you have gone majorly over time.
Oh, but that's all right. We've got to do better. We've got to do better, and we've got to do it faster.
Okay, now we do have a next one in here, and I'll get it up there as quick as possible because Charles has just messaged saying I'm going to have to leave. So we'll get him to answer this question first. Changes to government's central government legislation impacts local communities. Councils are expected to deliver the outcomes of legislation without funding or resources. An example as government ministries and departments increasingly communicate with their citizens via email and texts, the non-computer literate visit libraries for assistance in tax and benefit matters. The assistance is funded by ratepayers. Do you believe that central government should form partnerships with councils to deliver government services? If so, how should they be funded? So let's kick off, Charles, before you have to nip away.
I'm just trying to understand their question first and foremost. So do you believe that? Oh, can you put that question back up?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There it is. Well, yeah. Okay. Definitely. I think, sometimes centralization of things is not necessarily the best thing. I mean, through centralization, that can end up being detrimental to local. And Takuta first actually talked about that in one of his answers about bringing things more locally around the farmers and farmers markets. Same sort of thing, I think. Who knows their people better than the local? So I sort of want to go on a different angle on this, and I want to talk about that because I think Three Waters sort of attaches itself to this question. And Three Waters is a great example of centralizing an asset and a resource that can ultimately have a potential detrimental effect on local when it's in control by certain bureaucrats who may not necessarily have the well-being for those locals. So definitely, I believe that there should be that central government has a duty to fund local government, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, all power should remain locally to those people that live within those areas. And just one more thing, I think there's a kaupapa that hasn't really been talked about, but it's the smart city councils. Now, smart city councils, I believe, it's been wrapped up to make look all pretty and nice, but I think there are some undertones behind the whole smart city councils that has possible negative future outcomes that could be detrimental to our people. So that's just my whakaaro on that question. Nō reire te iwi, tēnei a hau e mihi ana. I'm going to sign off.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Bye.
And just in closing, I just want to say to all the candidates, kia kaha, ko te tūmanako ia, ka angitu koutou I roto I o koutou wāhi e noho ai. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi ake kia koutou katoa, Maori ora.
Maori ora. Kia ora. Sir Charles, te mihi nui ki a koe.
Ka kite.
Okay. Takuta, what your response?
I think I forgot the question.
It's at the bottom of the screen in front of you.
I think the government definitely has a responsibility to see that the services it is there to provide actually land on the ground. So that includes them paying for it. It includes them providing the, whatever's required in terms of facilities and that in community. It's a bit of a no-brainer to me.
Anything else to add?
Colin.
Okay. Hanadeta, your response?
It's government partners with local government already, but there are certain things around infrastructure that government needs to support local governments to create. So one of the things National has here is around creating city and regional deals to create long-term pipelines of projects to increase economic growth and productivity. I'm just looking at my notes because I did fill in the ballot papers. Another one is unlock land for housing by requiring councils and major towns and cities to zone land for 30 years worth of housing demand immediately. And another one is provide housing performance incentives for councils with $1 billion fund for growth incentive payments for councils that deliver more new housing, funded by stopping failed programs like Kiwi Bill, for example. National's got got a good policy around this, but the other thing too is making sure that local government have the resources and the pūtea to be able to do what they do best, and do best, which is to, support our community, support our infrastructure, and get on with the job.
Okay, Paris.
Yeah, I think Charles answered that beautifully from a Vision New Zealand standpoint. But for me personally, I agree with everything that everyone has said. I do think that there should be, in certain areas, especially infrastructure, where government should be looking to help fund local councils. Just quickly, the reason why I think that way is so with the housing and jobs, as I alluded to previously, I'm a solution-based man, and all of these issues that I see today, I've always tried to go about it and tackle them on my own. So I've worked 3 jobs for the last, I don't know how many years, to put myself in a position to now own 4 properties for my whānau and I, so that I can ensure that my tamariki and mokopuna don't go up the way that I grew up, with lack and in poverty. But now we're also in a position where we work with transitional housing, and we try and help other whānau into whares. So now we're also very fortunate to be in a position where we are now developing, and that's a whole nother, this is something that has been massive for us. We're building 9 townhouses to try and help whānau and get them into their first home, as well as provide affordable rental properties. So the hoops that I've had to try and jump through with my wife and I just to get it to resource consent has been horrendous. And the amount of money that it has cost us is, you didn't even want to know. I'm kind of get to the point where it's bro, are you pulling my leg? I'm balls deep now. I can't back out. I've invested that much money. I have to keep going. And there's always red tape that I'm having to jump through, So I think that for people like myself, we're not multi-millionaires, but we do everything that we can to help whānau. And everybody that knows me knows that. And I think that people like us should be incentivized and should be helped to help other whānau. So that's my whakaaro on that.
What part of the country are these the houses that you're going through? Which part of New Zealand is it happening in?
Whanganui and Wellington.
Okay, and it's interesting that it's the very same effect between both councils, because I know they do function very differently.
Yeah, but it's mainly the councils here in Wellington that have been difficult.
Yeah, I remember the days when I worked at the petrol station and the OSH LPG experience with the good old OSH inspector stories I had over there, and I know that was WorkSafe New Zealand, but they were employed on behalf of Wellington City Council to do this inspection, and I know what it means when you have roadblocks that continuously just be put up, whereas they could just tell you everything at the start, and then you can make an informed decision, not have it halfway through. Okay, we're off to my favourite part of the show. I'll just change the background that shows up in there. Actually, I'm sorry, Stacey, I don't have the members bill graphic on the broadcasting computer. It's on the laptop, so it's unfortunately not here at the moment. But this is my favourite part: is what would be your first members bill you put in the biscuit tin? Now, I've said it many times. I'm very sure I've said it enough times. I think we should just go straight to what would be the first members bill you put in the biscuit tin. And let's kick off with Takuta. What would be your first members bill? Takuta, yeah.
It would be defining Māori representation by the amount of eligible Māori registered to vote, i.e. not the amount of Māori on the Māori roll or the amount on the general roll, but the total.
Now, would that be on the proportionality of Māori. So the seats are based on both the combined of Māori on the general roll and Māori on the Māori roll to work out the proportionality. Because as you and I both know, whether you're standing in Oban or standing in Newtown, it's Te Tai Tonga.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. So, the current system divides the Māori registered voter base. And so by doing that, it limits the amount of Māori representation that there is. So that'd be the first members bill that I'd put in, challenging that.
Kapai. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Paris.
Yeah, mine would be a gender steadfast bill. So basically protecting those who believe what they believe. So gender steadfast meaning I'm a man. I believe I'm a man and I shouldn't be ridiculed for calling a man and a woman a woman. Especially for our tamariki in school who are now being forced to call a man that's dressed like a woman mixed and then being suspended for not wanting to call them mixed and having their ideology forced on them as tamariki is not right. So the gender steadfast bill will be protecting the rights of those who believe that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and that if there's a barber shop that's set up for men and a woman tries to go in there and she tried to ridicule him and blast him all over social media, then she'll be told that he's all in his rights to decline you from entering into that safe space that's been provided for Tāne.
I mean, from what you've just described there, that would be, you can also be booted out for appalling behaviour.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Hanarera, what would be your first members bill? This time, your first members bill in the biscuit tin.
That's right. Last time, just so you know, last time I was on here with the guys as I was impersonating Shiva Kalari from Manurewa.
Sure.
So I presented what I thought his bill would be. But anyway, this time my bill would be for a national strategy for arts, culture and creative sectors for Aotearoa New Zealand to facilitate a more coherent and effective public and private investment, as well as legislation, regulatory and policy settings. To have such a members bill, because we don't have a national strategy around our creative economy. The strategy would assist with the cultural and creative industries and their recovery while supporting employment, economic growth, and also to be able to put cultural policy around kaupapa Māori, mataranga Māori at the forefront of what we do. So, supporting our creative and cultural industries and our peoples of Māori, Pacific and all other diversities as well. It would be quite a thing for us to be able to achieve that.
You just made me think of, have you had anything to deal with Martin Hanley or Anna Kimball Welsh from the Newtown Festival Society?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's a small world.
Yeah, I know both.
Yeah.
I know both. I know both of them. I don't know them well, but I do know who they are.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, it's good that little Newtown makes its way to the Tamaki Makaurau.
Gosh.
Well, considering I'm within, half a kilometre from their house. So, and I have a lot to do with them on the Newtown Residents Association, and as Newtown Festival is the one that takes over the whole street of the whole town of Newtown for a day, where all the streets are closed, cars are gone, and people are crowding the streets and make it, basically, street festival fun for 24 hours.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the creative economy is big for New Zealand and for our Māori and our whānau. Many of our people are in the creative sector as, theatre practitioners, performers, visual artists, educationalists, So we've got to be able to support our creative community better than what we do. And certainly as we saw through COVID for our sectors, when it came to living all the resilience, how many of us turned to creativity. But we don't have a national strategy. And though there may be levels of investment into the sector through Creative New Zealand, Ministry of Culture and Heritage have not created any new cultural policy for us for quite a number of years. So if we look to Australia, and Australia actually have a national strategy, which they launched last year, and it's actually a really good strategy. But also too, it's been able to ensure that though we have Creative New Zealand have a national strategy called Ngā Haere Whā for Māori, this is about something bigger than that, to look at the sectors as viable economy for our people who are working in this particular space, and ensure that we have better investment, better policy, and that we can look at the levels of employment and economic growth that comes from the creative sectors, for all peoples of all ethnicities. But specifically when it comes to Māori, let's face it, Matatini, the level of investment there, that it actually has a place as a national festival, and Matariki as well, as a national festival for local communities, regional and nationally, that it has a place within a national strategy and is recognised, not just the way that we're currently doing it here. So there's an opportunity. So yeah, for me, I go, this is a core of it's at the core of who we are as a people and as an identity, because we're a bicultural nation first before we're multicultural. Get the biculturalism sorted, multicultural just naturally becomes part of us, as we at the end of the day. So yeah.
Okay.
There we go. There was a bit of a lecture, wasn't it? Gosh.
We're wiser as a result. Okay, let's get time for closing statements. And Hanarera, you get to go up first. Closing statements why the Tamaki Makaurau voters should give you their tick.
Oh my goodness. Well, look, as I said, it's the first time since National has put a National Party candidate, a Māori woman, to say that into the Tamaki Makaurau seat. The other Māori woman is Harete Heponga, who's standing in Te Taihauru for us this year. But why should Māori vote National? Well, this is about choice. This is about the fact that when you go to the polling booth, is that you will see that there's a Māori woman there who's put her hand up. You can be able to vote strategically for a change. There won't be a missing person there. So what we're asking for is a party vote for Māori. At the end of the day, we want to focus on easing the cost of living. We want to ensure that we have better incomes and better jobs, that we look at our levels of our leadership, education and employment, and that New Zealand does benefit when National works with Māori accordingly to our principles. And our principles are based around self-reliance, self-direction, autonomy, building our mana, and strengthening who we are as a people. So for me, I'm based on Saparana Ngāta's principles. To thrive and flourish, we've got to work hard. And we can see that since his day to this day with Tamapōtaka, now a Member of Parliament, that under National we can actually thrive and flourish. So what I'm seeking is your party vote. So party vote National. Kia ora. That gets me into Parliament. And I'll do good for you.
Okay, next up, Paris.
Yeah, so it's clearly evident that I'm not a typical politician. I do come from a very colourful background and upbringing that was heavily involved with drugs, alcohols. I left home at the age of 15, got myself into a wee bit of trouble, but my life now is a clear testament to the idea that change is possible. So I represent hope for many who might feel trapped in their current circumstances, and I represent the change that everybody in Te Taihauru is looking for. And I truly believe that the electorate, as well as New Zealand, would undoubtedly benefit from a leader like myself who understands the struggle of the people, that they possess, and that I possess the determination to enact the meaningful change that I've been pushing for, not just over this campaign, but since I decided to change my life around and be a light and a beacon of hope for other whānau. So I am seeking your party vote Freedoms New Zealand, but because I'm the only candidate here on tonight, give me 2 ticks. Paris Winiata for Te Taihawaru. Nō reira.
Kia ora.
Okay, and Taikuta, why should the Te Taitonga voters give you their electoral vote?
Yeah, kia ora, and kia ora henu rewa, and Paris, tēnā korua, tēnā tātou. Well, our people should vote for the Māori Party because the Māori Party is an unconstrained, unapologetic voice for the Māori people. We serve no one else. No one has an influence over what we say. And so we speak directly from a place of knowing who we are and how we're being treated in this country for a very long time. So, you know, as a people, we have to educate our young people. Our young people, who are a huge piece of the future demographics of this country and its workforce, we must educate them to understand the value and the importance of their vote and what participation in politics means. And Te Pāti Māori will continue to champion that and continue to grow that movement to ensure that our kids are better serviced in this space than we have and our parents were. So, yep, vote for Te Pāti Māori, unconstrained Māori voice and unapologetic. We won't back down, never back down. Ko kiritia te kaupapa, e oranga mō te iwi. Nō reira, tēnā tātou.
Kia ora, takuta.
Thank you. Okay, now I just want to check, Stacey, would you like to sit there and say something as our producer of the show, considering... No, she's saying good, thanks. Jill.
You hear me?
Yes, we can now hear you.
Cool.
Now, I want to ask you, how have you found these candidates?
Great. They've been in the background while I've been doing a lot of other admin work for you, Sam. Okay, so sounded great, and thank you guys for coming and participating in this way.
Thanks, John.
Now, I want to ask you one thing. Have we got anyone all lined up ready for the general mixed mixed It's in the Ballot show tomorrow night? Because I know I've seen you've got the list on there showing the invitation sent out. Just wondering if you've had any responses yet.
No, none as yet.
Oh, so we could have a empty seat.
Well, who knows? At least we give people the opportunity.
Who knows?
Exactly. And I want to ask.
Keep me in the loop, Jill.
Is that sorry? Paris.
Yeah, you can keep me in the loop. I might be able to jump in there if need be.
Yeah, all good.
Want to ask, we're having an election night show. Would any of you like to join in for 5-10 minutes on our election night show to give you your highlights, lowlights campaign?
Give us a call. You might be. I might be asleep
I'll
by
send
8
you
o'clock.
guys all a message, and you can just reply, and we'll sort something out on Saturday.
Yeah, sounds good.
10 minutes,
Awesome.
5-10 minutes would be great.
All right.
Yep, I've got
Awesome.
a couple other interviews that night, but if I can fit them all in, I will.
Okay, and I've got one quiet person there.
All right, then.
Was it Takura?
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm giving you the thumbs up.
and just want to ask, is your wife Iraraka?
Sorry.
Your wife Iraraka?
Oh, yeah. Iriaka.
Iriaka, okay. Yeah, no, I remember having backwards and forwards some emails earlier, so I remember when this show was being talked about in productions, it was, we've got to get you on. And I'm very pleased with it. And Stacey has spoken very highly of you as well from when she met you a few weeks ago. So the small world we all live in.
Yeah, I vote. Aye.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for joining us tomorrow night. Fingers crossed.
Thanks.
We have our general, general electorate, It's in the Ballot remote show to catch those candidates we missed during the election and hopefully see if we can talk a few of some of those colleagues from the big parties to come on there. And for those who want to sit there and get along, this Saturday night, 6 p.m, we'll be starting our election night show for the non-political part, and then from 7 p.m, we'll start bringing in the results and what will be happening in the electorates all over the country and meet some of the fantastic people who have been part of the team here. So thank you for watching. Thank you for our team being part of the show and our candidates for joining us tonight. And we will see you all tomorrow or on election night.
Kia ora. See you, Sam. Thank you so much.
Kia ora.
Nui kia kai tono. Yeah. Hei kona. Bye.
Ka kite.
Ka pai.